Hi guys, Tracy here again. I'm going to scrapbook this Instagram photo of my daughter and the snowman that we made just yesterday. And the title for this layout is called Snow Lady, and it was inspired by a Facebook friend who pointed out I had posted a Facebook status with this picture that said, "We just made a snowman," and she said, "It looks like it's a snow lady." So that's where the title of this one came from. And I'm just having a look at the Baby It's Cold Outside kit because it has a lot of snow type of embellishments. And then I also grabbed the tongue-tied kit because I'm going to be using both kits for this layout. And I just couldn't choose this month. There were way too many awesome things in both kits, so I splurged and got them both. Anyways, I'm kind of gonna go with a pink and minty greenish bluish kind of color scheme here, and I'm picking up on the pink from the snowman's little handkerchief there, or whatever that thing is called, neckerchief. And so I'm just picking out some papers from the tongue-tied kit, and I've got the fonts from both kits, and the pink one is from tongue-tied and the blue one is from Baby It's Cold Outside. And I'm going to use mostly papers from tongue-tied and mostly embellishments from Baby It's Cold Outside. So I'm going to start by matting this photo on this ombre paper, and I'm trying to mat it in a place where you're going to have more chances of noticing the ombre effect. So that's kind of towards the middle where it goes from the dark to the light. And I really want to use this bold handwriting paper from the Studio Calico print shop collection, and I so want to use a strip of these arrows, but they're not going to make it to this layout because I cut a piece, but I'm not going to use it. I don't know what I was thinking, but it's not the right, the white is blending in too much with the font in the pink and white paper, so I'm going to cut a strip out of this paper instead. And I just tried to cut it in a place that you're going to see more of the blues and pinks and less of the yellows, but there's a lot of yellow in that paper, so lots of the yellow is going to show too. It's not going to be completely, maybe we would call that dichromatic if it were just pink and green, so there's going to be this bit of yellow in there too. Then I really felt like I needed some black on this layout, but not solid black, to ground the photo. And because Olivia herself is so dark, like there's dark in her coat, and I think she's wearing she's got a black hat and maybe even a black scarf or something. And I just don't want her to be the heaviest thing on the layout, so I just grabbed that black pattern paper from my scraps. I'm pretty sure it's from crepe paper eventually. It at one point was part of a piece of crepe paper, but it was just in my black drawer of scraps. So I just outlined that pink and white paper. I'm going to outline all of the paper here just with a double line, which makes it casual, and if you make any wobbly mistakes, it doesn't make it too obvious. And so I'm even going to outline the black paper, even though you don't really see it. Sometimes I don't care about details like that, and sometimes I do. So today I do, so I'm going to go ahead and outline it. It gives it a really nice finished effect when you outline dark paper, when you take the time to do it. So I am outlining the ombre paper too, but I don't know where I went. I don't know what I was doing there. So anyways, I'm back and I'm finishing my outlining. And I'm just going to put these pieces back in place, and I am writing down the kits and the things that I'm using on this sheet of paper, which I use, and a lot of people ask me why I use this paper. I use it to keep track of my supplies so that when I am narrating this, I can have a glance over at it. I have it right in front of me. Oh, no, I have the Blizzard one. Here we go. I haven't had to look at it yet, but I do keep it in front of me as I'm narrating, just so I can remember what everything is called. And I also bring it up to my upstairs computer with me when I go to do any blog entries that I might do about this, or just kind of logging it for various reasons, mostly for my blog and narrating. So I'm going to go ahead and make the title, because as I was doing the other you know, basic layers and that sort of thing, I came up with my title, which I mentioned came from a Facebook comment that I got. And so it is going to be called Snow Lady, and I wanted snow to be in the light blue color and lady to be in the pink, because lady is kind of the unexpected part of the title, so I'm putting it in the darker font. And I like that these are one flat and one kind of with one letter sticker that has dimension, because it gives a little bit of contrast between the two. And the snow is going to be a bit of a tone on tone type of look. Sorry, I didn't zoom out there. I'm going to do it in a second. There you go. So the snow lady is going to go up in the top there, and I think at this point I'm going to start to glue things down. I don't know. Oh yes, I'm thinking about using that really cute frame, which I like and I am going to use, and thinking about using that speech bubble. I'm just going through some of the embellishments that came in the tongue-tied kit, which has nice blues and pinks. And so it has this phrase called always and forever, and I'm thinking I might be able to, I was thinking maybe I'll like cross out always and forever and put like until it gets warm or something like that, and I'll that will evolve over time. So I'm going to cut myself another piece of this bold paper that's pink and white, and I am going to forget to outline it until the very, very, very end, and I'm going to leave it unoutlined just because taking it apart will be way too hard by the time I'm realizing that I didn't outline it. So should have outlined it at this point. I usually do, but I didn't. So now I'm thinking about which snow and winter themed elements I'm going to be taking out of the Baby It's Cold Outside kit. And so that kit includes these really, really beautiful wood veneer snowflakes that are very delicate and tiny and thin, and they're just gorgeous. I absolutely love them. I'm trying really hard to not go overboard with them because, as you can see, I wanted to put them every which place that I could find, but I decided not to. So now I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, because I want those to have like a whitewashed look to them. So I am going to take them all off and put them in one place. And before I do anything, I'm going to start to put some of these layers back together, or not back together, but put them permanently together. So I wanted that black piece to be about a third of the way up, and the fishtail banner thingy is too far over. So I'm going to take it off and I'm going to move it over just a smidgen. I want it to be about a third, right? And it was just a little bit too much over. So now I'm going to use my Zig Mono Multi Adhesive, liquid adhesive, for putting that frame on, and the photo is going to kind of stick out on almost all the sides of the frame, and that's okay. I kind of like that look. Gives a nice layered look. So now I'm going to go ahead and, oh Tracy, I wish you didn't do that. I'm going to go ahead and put these together, and this is the point at which I should have been outlining, but I didn't. And I just snipped that one off so it wouldn't be in the way. I didn't bother with cutting it close at this point, because I'll do that later. And I want the tiny little edge of the W to fall off the page, so I had to place it over a little bit. And I also moved my letters up a little bit so that both letters could be on the pink paper. So now I'm going to trim that off a little bit better. And I'm just spreading out some space so that I can put my little spray box. It's actually not little, it's a big huge cake box that I use for catching the splatter of my mist. I'm going to mist these using Studio Calico Mr. Huey's in opaque white, which I'm going to regret because that stuff just often doesn't dry. Depending on the surface that you're misting, it's hit or miss for whether it dries. Now this might not be a great idea. I did not start a fire, but it might not be a great idea to use a heat gun on that close to paper towel, I was being careful and I was mindful of the fact that it might start a fire. I had a glass of water nearby in case I saw any smoke. So, yeah, I don't know if that's advisable, so I wouldn't suggest using my method here. um, Anyhow, these wood veneers are getting a very nice whitewashed look to them as the mist kind of sinks into the wood. You can see that they are wood veneer, but they have a nice white tinge to them, and they are taking forever to dry, and they're still not dry, so I'm going to set them over to the side, and they're still not going to be dry even when I go to put them on my layout, and so I'm going to have to just be very careful when I work with them, and I hope that by the time they get in my layout, in my scrapbook, they will actually be dry. So I guess I'm trying to think about what my next step is. I'm probably washing my hands, and here we go. I'm back to my layout, and I have to start figuring out how I'm going to embellish it. So I have my little snowman who's mostly dry. Those wood veneer snowflakes are going to have to dry a little bit more on their own, and I want that snowman to overlap a little bit with the wood veneer frame. And I want you and me to be over top of the snowman, and I don't know what I'm going to do with that little heart. I don't think it makes it. Nope, the heart doesn't make it. And so I have the Always and Forever on there, and I'm just looking at the embellishments that came with the tongue-tied kit, and I am looking for something to go along with the Always and Forever. I'm basically looking for something that I could use for a journaling strip. So I'm looking at the Ormolu cut aparts, and I'm looking at a piece of pattern paper that I might have used. And I'm thinking about that pattern paper that you see there. It's got kind of like a mottled look. And then I just went to my vellum drawer, and I have some printed vellum here that's, I think, my Mind's Eye made. And or maybe Simple Stories. Yeah, I think it was Simple Stories. Anyways, it is from a previous kit from sometime over the summer. I'm not loving the placement of that, but it's a start. And so I'm just going to cut a strip of this other vellum, which is from the Maggie Holmes collection. I think it also came in a kit. It must have, because I don't think I bought it, so it must have come in a kit. And I'm just testing out a couple of different markers on this vellum. I like this white picket fence distress marker, which comes out clear as you're marking, and then it turns white as it dries. But it does have a bit of almost like a wipey look, like it looks like it's pooled up, and I don't know, it doesn't quite look the way I want. So instead, I'm going to use this American Crafts marker, and it just occurred to me that I'll probably get a straighter line if I write this sentence on my grid paper, on my grid kind of work surface, instead of on the layout itself. So I just used that metallic marker from American Crafts. It came in a kit last month. It was the little bonus thing for getting kits in a row. And I just had to straighten it out a little bit because it was cut on a little bit of an angle. So I'm liking how that looks. It's kind of like a couple of journaling strips. I've got to get all of this to stick to the layout somehow. So I'm using my tiny attacher here to attach the vellum because I don't want to use adhesive because it tends to show. I don't have adhesive vellum. I keep meaning to pick it up at Michael's every time I go. I know right where it's at, and I've seen it and had it in my hand and said, oh, I don't need that. I always staple my vellum, but I should just buy some for days like this. So because I had to layer the snowman with the frame, I put pop dots under the part of it that would have a bigger gap, and then I put regular adhesive on the part that would be touching the frame. And now I'm using my tiny attacher with great difficulty here to get the bottom journaling strip in place. And that made it stand up too much, so I just ran some adhesive underneath of it. And now I have to figure out how I'm going to attach You and Me, which is also vellum. And I feel like I need something above the two journaling strips. I don't want something heavy, so I'm leaning towards vellum that I already have out. And looking at some of the vellum in the tray, but it's all very themey, like there's a mushroom and there's like, it I didn't have any of the right shapes. So I went back to my printed piece of vellum with the chevrons on it, and I am going to put that up there. Pardon me. I thought about layering, but I don't want to layer too many things so high. Like I kind of feel like the you and me and the bottom of the snowman are sort of the bottom part of this, and I don't want too much clutter way up high by his head. So I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do here. And this is kind of the longest part of this layout, is just kind of figuring out these kind of final touches. So I stapled that chevron, that pink vellum chevron, into place, and I'm just thinking about the other two pieces of vellum that I have to attach. I'm going to end up using my tiny attacher in two places with this. And I'm going to staple right through the wood veneer, which makes things, from your angle you can't see it, but from where I was sitting I could see that it was kind of pulling up on the paper behind it. So I just had to detach it a little bit. I'm going to use a stamp here, and so I'm taking the Burr stamp, which has its own speech bubble, and my thought, which I kind of had an idea that it wouldn't work, but I thought I'd try it anyways. My thought was to stamp Burr and then erase the speech bubble with my baby wipe, but because I'm using StazOn, it dries so fast that that was just not a good idea, so I went ahead and did a speech bubble on a speech bubble, and I don't think it looks too bad. I'm just cutting off some of the little knobbies from where that vellum was kind of punched out from the sheet it was on. That was during the manufacturing process. They come loose in a package, but they do still have their knobbies on them, some of them. So I'm just using my tiny attacher to attach that in place and trimming off the edge that hung over, replacing my stamp and having a sip of coffee by the look of it. And I'm not entirely sure what I have left to do on this layout. Oh yes, all the snowflakes, of course. So I'm placing these snowflakes approximately in the same places that they were before. And kind of like that. There. I like how they're placed right now, actually. So my problem is that these snowflakes are not dry yet, of course. And so they're a lot of them are kind of still a little warped, like they kind of cup up when into like a convex or concave shape when they're wet, and so they're not going to stick to my paper very well. So I'm just using the bottom of the glue bottle to press down. That way I don't get my fingertips all full of Mr. Huey's, because it's really hard to get Mr. Huey's off your hand, but it's a little bit easier to get it off a piece of a plastic glue bottle. So that is what I'm doing. And for that large snowflake on the left-hand corner of the photo, it's really only touching in two little spots on the frame, so I only put glue in those two spots, and it's holding up quite well. That's a very strong glue, that multi-liquid. I don't know why they give it such a crazy name. You'd think they'd give it something memorable like Tombow really strong liquid glue. I don't know. So I'm just using my glossy accents bottle there to hold down some of the ones. I was losing my patience for holding things down while they dried. So that last one was lying pretty flat by the time I got to it. It had dried enough that it was flat, so I didn't need to leave the glue on it for too long. And now I'm just kind of cleaning up little bits of glue that got to places that it shouldn't have. I think this is the last. Oh, no, it's the second last. So I'm going to stick that one in place, and then there's one left way up at the top in the top corner as well. So my glossy accents will hold that one down while I glue the top snowflake in place. I'm just going to put a piece of paper towel under there so I don't inadvertently glue it to my Martha Stewart work mat. Oh, I'm dying to use that little green arrow, but it's not going to make it. Just not going to happen. So it's definitely looking too plain, and because I'm using this satiny, it's like a pearlized cardstock on the background, I'm just picking a roller date stamp. I just went with my plain one, and I'm just going to, in that tiny little bit of pink that's plain, I'm going to stamp the date multiple times without re-inking, just so it has that kind of gradually getting lighter look. And I want to put some splatter on this, of course, but I can't splatter it because it is the kind of paper that splatter is just going to sit on top of. It's not going to suck into the paper, and so it will take forever to dry, and it probably would never dry because it's that pearly looking finish on the paper. So I'm going to sprinkle these white sequins. These are sequins that I got at a hobby shop in the city. It's like for electric trains mostly and models. It's kind of like a men's hobby shop. I know that's very sexist. I'm sure that women do trains too, but it's like very manly in there. Whenever I go in, I'm the only woman in there. I always feel a little weird. Anyways, they have big bags of sequins, and those are three different types. There's like a pearlescent white in big and small, like so those were each a package, and then there's a package of clear sequins. And so I have them all mixed together, and I keep them in a little sugar bowl, and I just keep them in the bottom, and then my more themed sequins I put in little plastic bags, little plastic baggies to keep them sorted by color theme that they came in. So the ones that landed upside down, I'm leaving upside down because the white ones actually look quite cute upside down because they're a opaque white on the back side, and on the front side they are like a pearlescent, what is that called? It's like a it reflects back in different shades of pink and purple. There's a name for that, and I know the name, I just am not remembering it right now. I'm saying pearlescent, but that is not the word that I'm looking for. It's another word. Iridescent, that's what it is. So they have an iridescent coating on them. They're really, really pretty. I like them. And so I didn't want to struggle too much with placement of these sequins. So you might have noticed that at the beginning when I took them out, I just kind of sprinkled them in the three different places that I wanted them to land. And that was just because, you know, I might as well just let them be random if instead of like working really hard to make them look random. So other than turning some of them over and maybe spreading one or two of them out, I basically just left them how they landed. It's really hard to glue one sequin on top of another, so if they landed overlapped, I just kind of took one off or moved one over or something like that. But other than that, I'm just leaving them as they landed because that's truly random. And, you know, that's the look I was going for. So I wanted these to look kind of like snowflakes in the sky around the layout. Even though there are actual snowflakes on the layout, I just wanted these to kind of mimic little tiny snowflakes. So I'm almost done here. My fingertips are getting sticky at this point, so the sequins aren't sticking as well to the paper. They're wanting to come up with my finger when I pull my finger back, so that's why the last ones took a little bit longer. So that is my alternative to misting, was putting on those sequins, and it gives it a little bit of a splattery type of a look without actually doing splatter. So I'm just going to put my sequins back, and now I'm going to show you the close-ups of these. So that's what my secondary cluster, which actually holds the title, is like. You can see that those snowflakes just have a whitewashed look, so they're not completely bright white. They are, oh yeah, so here's where I'm noticing, oh man, I didn't outline that paper. And I'm thinking about, should I take everything off and do the title all over again? And I quickly decided, no, I think I'll just leave it. And, you know, some of us might notice that. I might notice it depending on the mood that I'm in, but I think a lot of people aren't going to notice such a detail It certainly looks a little bit unfinished up there compared to the rest of it, just because it doesn't have the outlining, but I think it looks okay. Yeah, I hope that you guys can't hear what sounds like elephants on my ceiling. I have three little girls upstairs and they're playing. They are supervised. My husband's up there with them, but holy moly, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but at least we're at the end of this video. So here are the close-up photos. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and take care and have a great scrappy week.